Hi there, welcome to No Nonsense Whisky. My name's VinPF, and on today's episode we're going back up to the Glasgow Distillery to check out their third and final release. Now, that's a little bit misleading because it's not actually their third release, it was actually their second release, the third being the triple distilled, but the way I've covered them, I've done the original first, then the triple distilled, and finally the peated. That's mainly because I'm a big fan of peat at the moment, and I wanted to save what I might consider the best till last. Now, the clues in the title of this one. This is a peated release. It's actually been aged in their virgin oak casks, the same as their kind of triple distilled casks, I guess, and then it's been finished in Pedro Ximénez casks. That's pretty awesome. The actual peat itself is coming from the spirit. They've got loads of kind of distillation stuff going on at the moment. They've got obviously their normal distillation. They've got a couple of weeks dedicated to their triple distilled, and then they've got a little bit of time dedicated to the peated whiskey as well. The other ones in the kind of core range, the original is very tasty indeed. The triple distilled, although like a valid whiskey, of course, didn't really hit my personal tasting notes that much. It was definitely my least favourite, and as you might have told, I'm pretty enthusiastic about this one already. Now, a couple of key things to know about this one. Just like the other ones in the core range, this is a half-litre bottle, and it's roughly about that sort of £50 mark direct from the distillery. You can get it from all other places as well, but those prices might fluctuate a little bit, but the RRP is around that £49. Definitely worth something to consider when you're picking up a bottle of this, because you know it's fairly expensive for a half-litre. You know, that scales up quite significantly and quite high. But I think, as I've mentioned on the other videos as well, in my personal opinion, I think they've made the right choice by keeping the price point relatively affordable for a brand new distillery, and reducing the volume of the whiskey accordingly, rather than charging an extra premium for these things. Because these liquid are really good, you know, across the board. Even though I said the triple distilled is my least favourite of the core range, realistically, it's still an excellent whiskey. It's just in comparison to the other two. You know, if you compare them to the wider world, and there's definitely worse whiskies in the world for the same price. That's all I'm really saying about that. So don't let the price worry you too much. If you were looking for an inroad into the distillery, then really you need to pick your kind of what you would ordinarily go for. So if you'd go for peated whiskey, then this might be the one. And if not, then the original might be the one. Or if you're into the Irish whiskey scene, then maybe the triple distilled, although I'm not entirely sure that translates too much because of the use of new oak. Okay, then let's get into the whiskey and see what we've got. As with all their kind of core releases, it's a non-chill filtered, natural coloured, 46%, so all of that, I mean, that's absolutely beautiful colour. For something that cannot be more than sort of 5-6 years old, the distillery started producing in 2015. It's unlikely to be that old. I don't think that's how they're working their systems at the moment. Probably about the 3 to 4 year mark. Don't know that for sure. If Glasgow's watching, they might be able to drop a comment below and let us know. But it's definitely no higher than 6 years. That's the kind of key takeaway from this. And of course, the final thing to say as well, as I mentioned earlier, is that it's aged in the kind of new oaks. That's going to give some accelerated aging, and finished in PX casks. Let's get onto the nose and see what we've got, shall we? So this is got such a beautiful nose to it. It really has. It's not like super heavy on the smoke. That might just be that my nose is a bit like kind of accustomed to the smoky peat now, but it isn't overly medicinal. It isn't overly ashy. It's got a really nice, light, sweet smoke about it. There's bags of wood here. There's some tobacco going on. And, you know, there's some sweeter notes like the kind of honeys and vanillas you might expect from a brand new cask. Not so much on the sherry notes, I have to say. But as we might see, let's check out on the palate. It's got a really nice mouthfeel to it. There's this kind of initial sweetness that comes through from the kind of dried fruits and more of those honeys and vanillas I mentioned on the nose. Then the smoke comes in, and it's a really kind of light, wafty smoke, like I wouldn't say a tobacco-y smoke, but don't confuse that with a kind of cigarette smoke. We're talking more like a kind of cigar-y vibe from that. And then once that's kind of disappeared off, it kind of gets replaced a bit more with more peppery, spicy notes, I guess. There's a lot going on. Now the finish is quite long. I would say kind of medium long in length. The sweetness disappears first. Then the kind of smoke kind of lingers a little bit. It does start to get a bit ashy towards the end, but in my opinion, that's no bad thing. But it's something to be aware of if you're not into those kind of flavour profiles. So yeah, I have to say, I mean, it's taken me a while to get to this one, but as you can see from the bottle here, I've been hammering this one, and now that I've done the review of it and the bottle becomes fair game for my kind of regular drinking, I don't think it's going to last very long. Something I've discovered through this and several others is that I seem to really enjoy PX and peat together, which it obviously exists and it's not like that rare, but in the grand scheme it's rarer. I don't tend to enjoy PX sherry, and I don't really like PX sherry cask whiskey ordinarily, but as over the last few months I've discovered a real kind of thing for PX and peated whiskey. So if you've been watching the video up to this point and you know of some good PX peated whiskies, drop it in the comments below and I'll see what I can do to get hold of them, because I'm going to start exploring this a little bit more and see if this is a real thing for me or if I just got lucky with a couple of bottles. But yeah, as a quick summary then, I would say if you're a peat fan like me and you've been looking at this distillery, I'm in an hour and thinking, oh, it's a little bit expensive for a half litre, I would say jump in and give it a go. Yes, it's young whiskey. It's fairly expensive for that kind of 50 quid mark, but I think it's worth every penny. For me, this one's a real winner.